So, about 2 years ago, my first project was a dining room table that I made for myself and my girlfriend. I made it out of some exotic African hardwood that I had no business using. And then about 6 months ago, I decided to take that table apart and remake it. Everything looked pretty good actually, except we covered it in epoxy. And yeah, the epoxy all split and cracked and looked terrible. So we decided that before the baby came, that I should make a new table. But in the sake of cost and not using an exotic African hardwood, these are just spruce 2x4s, 2x6s, sorry. It's super dry here in southern Alberta, so I made sure that these were dry to about 5.5%. So they should be pretty safe. And I picked some nice flat and straight ones. I didn't record the very beginning of me jointing the edges and faces of all these boards, but that was done before this recording started, so I'm just planing. I think I take these down to 1 3/8. I really don't want to lose much thickness, so it was really important for me to pick as flat a boards as possible. The plan here is to have breadboard ends, and when I made the first one, I did like a trestle table. I think everyone's made a farmhouse table with a trestle base, but this time we are going with the cleaner look of 4 legs with an apron. Yeah. So I separated out all the boards for the tops there, and now I'm going to just glue up some blanks for the legs. I kind of change how I do this all the time, but currently what I'm doing is I'm running brads into the ends that are going to get cut off anyway due to snipe. That just helps keep everything aligned, like rather than using cawls or anything like that. I always just put down a little bit of scrap MDF to save my bench. Next day here, take everything out of the clamps. I gave up 2 of my pipe clamps recently to make that Moxon vise on the end of my bench. The vise definitely gets a lot of use, but I lost 2 pipe clamps. Kind of sad. Just cleaning those edges back up on the jointer. Even with those brads, it's never perfect. Gotta move my tiny little dust collector around. I just don't have the space for a big one. As you can see, like there's no way I can put a several horse dust collector anywhere in this shop. It's a single car garage, only 12 feet wide, so I mean I could probably have smaller benches, but I don't know. I really value the workspace. Now I'm just cutting all those brads and a good chunk of the snipe off. I just set the fence to the width, or the thickness, I guess, of these boards. That way I can just get it perfectly square, blank right off the table side. I don't gotta mill it again. I will only get 1 blank out of each glue up that way, just because they're slightly skinny, but it doesn't matter. I have way more blanks than I need, so So I'll use these first 4 that I'm cutting right now for the table, and then I'll move the fence in just a smidge and cut for the benches, because they can be a little smaller proportionally and still work out fine. Another downside to that small little dust collector is I can't really get any overarm suction or over blade suction on this table saw. I tried running 1.5 inch, but it's just, there's not enough CFM in that little collector to push it, so have to vacuum yourself off anytime you do a lot of rip cuts, which is whatever. Here I'm cutting those blanks to final length. I don't know if I'm the only one that does this. I switch back and forth to the right and left side of the saw all the time. I think it's partially because of where my table saw is, but I don't know, sometimes it's just a lot more convenient to have it over there. And sometimes I like to use the fence, like put a stop block on the fence. Here I'm laying out for the mortises. I don't know why I ever do it I don't know why I ever lay things out any way other than this, but about halfway through I'm gonna decide that I just need to get the calipers out, take the thickness down to the 1,000th of the board and of the mortise that I'm gonna do the math that way. I don't know, it's just easier. Fractions are silly sometimes. And you have to be reasonably precise with a mortise and tenon, you know. A 1/16 of slop is quite a bit. So I'll be doing 1/2 inch mortise and tenon for the table, and then I'll do 3/8 for the benches. I'll draw bore all these at a later date. I didn't cut those today, but I'll get to it. It's not, I don't know, it's not particularly necessary, but you have to have a lot of clamps to do glue ups like this, and draw boring really reduces the amount of clamps you need, and especially on painted projects like this, like the whole, anything that's not the top will be painted white, so you'll never see the pegs anyway. So here I'm again laying out the 3/8 inch mortises for the benches. I actually make a mistake here, because I should cut mortises top and bottom on one face. It's not really necessary, but that's how we decided to do it. Mostly just for aesthetics, just to have a little rail running along the bottom, but I'll just pocket hole those in later. Like, they don't do anything other than look pretty, really. I mean, they'll help with racking a little bit, I guess. I'm also beginning to wonder, as I carry on with this process, project to project to project, that if marking these out is a real waste of time. Because for stuff like this, I'll just do it on the hollow chisel mortiser. Like, is a knife line really that important? Probably not. Yeah, I picked this. It's a Craft X little hollow chisel up from a friend, actually, last summer. It's been pretty helpful, especially when I made the crib. It was very very advantageous, saved me a lot of time. And it's just, you know, as long as you take the time to set it up right, you get nice clean mortises. There is a fair amount of setup, as you can see. Like, this is sped up 8 times, and it still took, you know, a little while. Test cut went well, so onward we go. I got a chip stuck in there. Doesn't happen often, but it's kind of a pain when it happens. They're hard to get out of there. I've seen some guys who have the bit, like the drill bit, protruding quite deep, like quite far past the cutting edge of the chisel. And I tried that. I tried it. And then tried it, recessed it. I don't think it matters. It just does not seem to matter. Like, yeah, this is just spruce. It's soft and it's easy, but even like when I made the crib out of white oak, like, I don't know, it didn't seem to matter to me at all. Yeah, even with the assistance of a power tool like this, it's quite a lengthy process to cut all these mortise and tenons. Like, I don't know. People can hate on pocket holes all they want, but boy are they fast. And you know, for a project like this, probably totally fine, honestly. 2.5 inch pocket screws I probably could have done the amount of work I did this weekend in 2 days, and, you know, as far as the joinery is concerned, in a couple hours. I feel like on a big table like this, you'd get a fair amount more racking using just pocket holes, but you could brace it in the corners or something. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to run a bunch of pieces inside this skirt to help with racking anyway, so with those, I'm sure it would be fine. Here, I'm working on the, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the skirt, the rails. I just wanted to mill them down a little thinner to distinguish them a bit from the top and from everything else. So I brought those down to 1.25 inches, I think. Yeah, that is the 4th or 5th time I changed the bag on that little dust collector so far in this project. It's still better than sweeping though, even if only a little bit. Here I actually, just right there on that board, just mauled all the blades in my helical head on that planer. That board was riddled with brad nails from something I had done months ago, and I thought I didn't have enough material here for the rails, but I do. I was just being an idiot. So I was going to mill that board down to 1.25 inches. And yeah, it was full of brad nails, ruined, 6 inches worth of the cutters. I hadn't rotated them yet, so I guess I can do that, but still, you know, they had probably a year's worth of life left in them. I prefer to use my sled for A, long boards like that, and B, when I'm just cutting off a little bit, because I don't actually have a zero clearance throat on this table saw. It's quite poorly designed, the throat area of this saw. You've got, I don't know how thick that thing is, I've never measured it, but it's, 3/16 at most, and that's all you can fit. You can't, so it's hard to put anything in there that has any rigidity because it has to be so thin. Here I'm marking out for all the tenons. Again, I don't know that it's really necessary to go through this whole process of marking it out, because I'm going to cut them, well, I don't know. I'm going to cut them on the bandsaw, but I'm going to cut a lot of it by hand too, I guess. For this, yeah, I definitely need to mark it all out for this. It just wouldn't be good enough, even for a painted project, if I didn't mark it out. Oh, my headphones died there. Unfortunate. Change in perspective. Yeah, so I'm gonna, rough 2 cuts out on the bandsaw. Just dial it in on a piece of scrap till it fits in the mortise. Yeah, and then put my new box and vise to work. Those are Craig bench dogs. I've never owned bench dogs besides those ones, so I can't really say they're any better or worse than anything else. I've always just used dowels, but when I put the new top on my bench here, I decided I should spruce up the dogs. But I like them. They have 2 different thickness ones, depending on the stock you're working on. Kinda neat. And I don't know why I did this, but when I was laying them out, I decided to lay them out so I would cut whatever it is, a 1/2 inch off the top and 5/8 off the bottom of the tenon. And that was foolish. I should have just cut it the same on either side so that these would be totally reversible and I could put, if something comes up, I drop it or whatever. Something happens and one face gets real ugly. Like, they're not fully reversible as they are now. Like, the one face is the face now and forever. Anyway, yeah, that's about it for this one. Gonna get a lot less done in the coming days because it'll just be in the evenings, but yeah, I'm gonna cut all the joinery for the benches tomorrow probably, and then it'll be a bunch of router work, bringing down all these edges, and then a bunch of sanding, and then some test assemblies, and then the tabletop. Okay.